Welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Well, one of our favorite segments, Garage Ed. And today we're talking all about brake valves and bleeding the brakes. Let's start out with some brake valves. Now, each one of them has a unique job to do. So we can look at a metering valve. That's what this is right here. It's an actual metering, proportioning, and pressure differential. It's a combination in all three. Now, you can have them separate, but this one has it all together. And you can take a look at the graphic right there. Starting in the middle is actually the pressure differential. Now the pressure differential turns on what's called your ribble light, your red brake warning light. That's important. If you have any fluid loss on either one of the channels or either one of the side of the brakes, it's going to kick up, it's going to kick on that light. You have a major problem. Time to stop the car if you can stop the car. Now we'll go to the front of the valve over there. You see that's the metering valve. Now the metering valve on a disc drum system holds off the disc brakes until the drums apply. Why is that? Well, the springs have to overcome the pressure and it takes a little while for them to get out. So this valve is going to hold off so much pressure, maybe 25, 50 psi, to the fronts to allow the brakes to apply. That's on the front of the car, goes to the front line. Now here's another trick for you. You got a little tool right here. You may have to hold that open if you have one of those valves because you're not going to get the pressure through if you're gravity bleeding, and we'll talk about that in a little while. Now the last one on here, this is actually a proportioning valve. Now I like to think of him of basically the traffic cop of fluid. He's in the rear line and he's used to take away rear fluid under heavy brake apply. Why is that? Well, remember, it's all about those brake dynamics. As that nose of the car starts to dive, those rear wheels are going to come up. I don't need as much fluid back there or they're going to lock up. So your proportional valve goes to the rear line. So watch out for him too. Here's another one. This is a height sensing proportioning valve. And I got a trick for you because this is in the rear line and it's hooked up to the frame and the suspension. So when it moves, it can actually vary the fluid to the rear brakes. Now, if you have a car up on a lift like we do and the differential sagging down, this valve is going to be all the way closed and you're never going to be able to bleed fluid out of the rear lines. So make sure you disconnect this arm, pull it up so you can bleed it. Now, speaking of bleeding, well, there's different techniques to bleeding a brake system as well. Why would you want to bleed it? Well, anytime you open up a system, you're going to introduce air into the system. Air is compressible and liquid's not. You get a case called brake fade, and you don't want that. So if you open it up or you actually boil brake fluid, we're going to bleed it. There's several methods to do it. Now, you can gravity bleed. You can just come over and open up the bleeder and let it drip. Make sure your master cylinder is topped off and full. You never want to run it dry. Now, we have our resident motorsports journalist, Dave, up in the car. We're going to talk to him in a minute because we're going to do manual bleeding. That's a two-person job, and that's pretty much what we do most of the time here at Tech Garage. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up a bottle here, and I'm going to catch the fluid, and we're going to have a line of communication. So, Dave, first off, do you know what a brake pedal is?
Yes, I do, John, because what speeds up must slow down. Very important in racing.
Absolutely. All right, so Dave, what you're going to do, we're going to do some manual bleeding. You're all familiar with it. Dave, I just want you to pump it up, but we have to have a line of communication, man, because that pedal has to be held before I open up this bleeder. So go ahead and pump it up.
Pumping and holding.
All right, once he's holding the pedal or your friend's holding the pedal up there, what you can do is you can come down here and crack the bleeder at that time. The air's all going to be compressed and it's going to shoot out that bleeder. I'm going to put it in a bottle here just in case he lets his foot off the pedal. I'll suck up fluid instead of getting air in the system, but he's not going to release the pedal until I tell him the bleeder's closed. So let's practice that one more time. Dave, bleeder's closed.
Pumping and holding.
Now I can open it and then do it once again. Keep doing it. Go around to the wheels. Good tip for you, you can always start on the wheel furthest from the master cylinder. The right rear, then go to the left rear, the right front, then the left front. Work your way that way. There's also a couple other methods. This one is called a vacuum bleeder. This is pretty cool. This takes a shop air source and you hook it to it. And what you can do, it's pretty non-intrusive. It doesn't mess with a lot of ABS systems. It's a one-man job. Just pull the trigger, put it on the bleeder. It creates a vacuum, and when it creates a vacuum, you're actually pulling the brake fluid from the master cylinder all the way down. It's a nice, easy way to do it. Just once again, make sure your master cylinder stays full. Last but not least, there's the old pressure bleeder right here. You get the adapter, put it on the cap of the master cylinder, fill it up, put pressure. You're forcing pressure from the master cylinder down. Remember, if you ever open up the system or the system gets hot, you get a spongy pedal, there's going to be air in the system and bleeding is going to be in order. Any one of these methods work well. But remember, you have a lot of nooks and crannies in the ABS system, all these valves. You may have to bleed the system multiple times. Be patient. You want to have a good pedal and you want to be safe when you're driving along. Well, stick around. We're coming back with the Master Technician Tech Tip. Hashtag MTTT. Say what? That's right. Right after this break, we'll be back with more Tech Garage presented by RockAuto.com.